Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the PowerTalk Show powered by Business Talks Weekly. Our guest today is a seasoned leader. He has built MedTech startup, scaled to $20 million with 60 team members. He is currently focused on AI companies and AI products. Please welcome James Lang. James, welcome to the PowerTalk Show.
Navin, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, James. James, I would like to start the conversation by understanding a bit about your professional background and what led to the creation of Lang Ventures and Partners.
Yeah, absolutely. So OverLang Venture Partners is the culmination of really the first 35 years of my life, right? It's the things you learn in the trenches, the things you learn as you solve problems, as you scale, as you recruit, fire, build up, all these different aspects of getting from A to B. It turns out it's not a linear path. It's all over the place, right? So for me, it started out I was a freelance writer, and then, and back in around 2013, 2012, and I started to realize that more and more of the content I was writing was being used for SEO purposes. Well, what's SEO? I wanted to learn, and I'm a big advocate of learning and earning. If you can understand the why behind the what, you can move up, the ladder, so to speak. So for me, once I learned how SEO works and understood digital marketing a little bit more, went in-house at an agency. That agency eventually was acquired by Launch Medical, which is the developer of the Phoenix, which is a MedTech device direct to consumer. And so while I was there, I went from content writer to director of customer experience to chief operating officer. It was really interesting because I got to work on the marketing side of the house. And then I got to learn more about the regulatory side of our medical system and how we deliver solutions to people in the United States and around the world, really. Actually, we were just expanding into South Korea when I exited about a year and a half ago. But yeah, super interesting journey. Met a lot of people who definitely left a mark in terms of being mentors and teaching me things that you just can't learn in school. And for me, a college dropout, the traditional startup path, right? I really like getting my hands dirty. I like focusing on the problem, bringing smart people together and getting out of the way. So in a lot of ways, I describe myself as more of a facilitator than anything else. So this last chapter, or this most recent chapter that we're in right now. So about a year and a half ago, I moved to Denver. I've lived all over the place. I grew up in Virginia Beach, went to school in Ohio, worked in California, Arizona, and then moved to Denver after exiting. And what really blew me away is it just so happened that one of my best friends from high school lived out here. So I move out here and I'm in a season of life where I was actually dealing with some unique health challenges and really taking time to work on myself and, bounce back from those things and recover from, the hectic life of building, for 6 or 7 years. So I get out here, my buddy Jeff, looks me up on Facebook. He's like, dude, you're in Denver? So we went and got together and I joke with him all the time. It's almost like the Denver area is the outlet for the witness protection program for people from Virginia Beach, where I grew up, because there's so many people from Virginia Beach here. And there's even like a bunch of towns or neighborhoods and street names that hark back to Virginia Beach, the community we grew up in. And so it's just really weird and kind of awkward, to be honest, but it's like two worlds coming together. But yeah, what's really cool about that is, Jeff, in the time that I was working in the e-commerce space and the medtech space, he was working in AI and big data long before it was cool. He now runs data infrastructure and security for one of the largest AI platforms for insurance companies. So they handle, all the data storage. So we're talking about petabytes of data, plus handling inquiries from claims representatives and other things, as well as actuarial calculations. So setting the rates for insurance. There's all these interesting ways that all this data is being housed and being accessed and utilized to make smarter decisions in the insurance space. So he's up to his eyeballs in that world. And so we were sitting there talking. It's like, if we took my marketing background and my operations background and combined it with your AI background and big data background, we could actually probably build some pretty cool tools and solutions. So where we started was, okay, well, let's build something that provides like a 360-degree solution for small and medium-sized businesses. Take the strategies, take the tech that the Fortune 500s are using, and figure out how to bring that down and democratize it and bring it to small and medium-sized businesses. Because most business owners right now are terrified they see this wave coming. They don't understand it. AI is kind of a foreign concept to many people. So, how can we make people feel more comfortable, more informed, help them make better decisions from both a people, a process, and a technology standpoint? So for us, that's an area where it's really been an exciting journey, because the first project we launched was taking a quiz funnel, which is a very simple tool that's used by marketers all the time. You go online and you look at a product and it asks you 5 or 6 questions. It educates you and learns about you at the same time. So it educates you across the finish line. Then by the time you're done with the quiz, a marketer has a lot of information about you to market to you more effectively if they didn't quite get you to convert while you were there. But if we add in the ability for AI to have a conversation with you, so not only are you answering those 5 or 6 questions, the things that people have an attention span to stick around for, but if you have a question about the question or something that isn't addressed in the quiz, you can chat right there with a bot that understands the knowledge base and can assist you in making a purchasing decision or help educate you further. And the beauty of that is then you extract all that information too and attach it to the user profile. So at the end of the day, you know much more about your user. Now, here's the problem. So we have this great idea, we get to building it, and then we realize, well, just one test set of data, it costs us $800 in compute just to run the test through, because compute is very expensive. So what we did was we said, okay, let's hit pause here because we have a problem. Let's look at all the off-the-shelf, public solutions to compare options. And we couldn't find something that was really scalable that allowed us to build what we wanted to build. So we had to focus on something that was far more efficient. So Jeff, being the tech wizard that he is, literally locked himself in his room for a weekend and just coded like crazy and figured out how to, pile these things together. And so what he ended up building, and I'm the dumb one in this conversation, right? I'm just on the outside on the door like, dude, hurry up, let's go. But, he's doing all the work, right? And so in that stage, he was really doing a great deal of innovation. And I was more there as a voice of the customer, if you will. Like, okay, well, this works, but it would work better for dumb people like me if it did this. How do we make the user interface approachable to anybody? So what we built in the end is our own AI infrastructure. So it's a sandbox basically, where the data, all of the information is all housed within a walled off garden. So you have the ability to have all of your information that you want connected to your AI as a company. And all that data stays within the security of your infrastructure. It's not going out to somebody else's server somewhere. It's not going to be cached somewhere and saved for reference later by other people. It's purely inside your wheelhouse. But what's really cool is if you can figure out the data vectoring, the storage side of the things, how you organize data so that AI can access it more easily. And then you combine that with an AI engine that can run multiple language models. We can pick and pull different things. So based on the task that you're trying to accomplish, we can match the type of data vectoring that makes the most sense along with the type of modeling that makes the most sense and run that within the system. And what we like to say is we can give you Ferrari performance at a Prius price tag. It's far more efficient than what's out there. So that same data set where we were trying to figure out how to get, this tool to work, that costs us $800, running it through our system with the same, data, but just a little bit different of a setup. It came down to about $4 of compute. So huge difference in cost. And what it means is companies can not only just afford to deploy AI if it's the right fit. AI is not the right fit for everything, but it's one tool in the toolbox. If it makes sense, our secret sauce is we can deploy a custom solution to help support their business. And it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to run it. You're not going to go broke using your platform. So that's the long-winded version of how we got here.
Thank you, James. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us and your journey. So, are you live? Have you reached out to your clients? Are people using it? Did you find the product market fit? And what is the feedback that you're getting from companies?
Yeah. So Jeff and I both, we could retire if we wanted to. We've had success in our different realms. But at the end of the day, because we're not looking to pay our bills tomorrow, we have the ability to step back and do things the right way in a way that's sustainable from an economic standpoint. And one thing we do is we try to keep, what can happen is if you're really well capitalized and you build something, you can end up building something really big and expensive that you think is perfect for the market, but the market might say, no, we're good. We're going to go with something else, right? And so then you have this disaster of a huge, hole in your balance sheet. So what we're doing is we're very specifically and carefully building based on what the market tells us. So for us, our three verticals right now, where we're building out solutions with our clients, is in the legal space. So for law firms, handling client intake. So somebody goes to a personal injury lawyer's website, they're just in a car accident, they can chat or call and interact with AI and ask questions, answer questions. And the AI can do kind of a quick check to see if there's a conflict or are they in the right state. If they're not in the state where the attorney's licensed, they can't help them anyways. Is it an area of law that they practice in? And so all this time that used to be spent with a person on the phone talking to somebody for a half hour while they tell them all about this stuff, and it turns out they can't even help the person. All this is done by AI. And then if it passes that check, then all that information is put into a brief that the firm receives along with a scheduled call with that person so that they can do the in-person either right away or a little bit later on. And, when the person hops on the call to talk to them, they've already got a brief. It's not just a transcript of the call. It's an actual analysis of here's what was discussed, here's what happened, here are the details. So it makes all of this far more efficient from a human standpoint. So that's in the legal space. We have a client using that. In the medical space, it's the same problem, except a little bit different because here in the States, we have this very complex insurance system that is really a nightmare, to be honest, but it's hard to navigate. And there's two problems that we're working with doctors to solve right now. One is how do we make patient intake easier and more cost effective? So it requires less of their front desk team. They can focus on the patients that are in the practice versus sitting on the phone talking to people and going through insurance information, everything else. And then also a lot of doctors, and this is the thing we haven't quite figured out yet. So I'd love any feedback from people that have ideas, but we're working on figuring out how to solve the problem that so many of these specialist medical practices deal with, which is they get a referral from a family doctor and it kind of is related to their specialty, but not something they do personally. So they end up wasting a bunch of time where, patient comes in, they have an appointment, the doctor goes, okay, yeah, you do have this problem. I see it here, but unfortunately I don't do that. Let me refer you to this second specialist that helps with that. So there's a disconnect between the family doctors and the specialists. So we're working with a team of doctors, including a surgeon, to try to figure out that challenge. So that's fun. And then the third place is we have a 3PL client who we're building out this dashboard for them that's customer facing as well as leadership facing and frontline employee facing. So what that means is customers can self-serve, employees can get information for their job to make their time more efficient, and leadership in the company can access all the information in all their data islands, right? Like we have things in our email, we have things in our Google Drive, we have things in our QMS system, all these different applications and programs. These things are all floating out there. And so normally when you say, I want to make a decision, well, just collecting the data to make a decision takes so long. So our system, you can literally, if you're the CEO or a director, you can chat with and say, hey, do we need to hire another customer service rep? What do you think? And it will look at everything. And it'll say, yeah, probably, based on the current trend, maybe in a month or two, you're going to need to. But, if you were just to optimize and, build out a better system for handling this one thing that's eating so much of people's time, you probably wouldn't need to hire another rep. So it's more than just offering an answer to the very specific question you ask. It's a thought partner as well. So it takes both the data gathering and an initial first pass at data analysis and allows you to complete that step much faster. Obviously, it's not a replacement for a human being making the decision, but it's a great assistant. So those are the three areas we're really active in right now, but we're constantly expanding and getting pulled into different projects and different systems. So it's a really busy, hectic time over here.
That's very interesting. James, I just want to understand, like, are you providing pre-built out of the box solution or are you customizing for each and every business?
We're customizing for each business because the problem is with these out of the box or off the shelf solutions, the problem is it doesn't necessarily integrate with your current technology stack. And it probably doesn't work in a way that mirrors your company's culture and your operations and your practices. So what we do is we start with the people and the process first, understand where your company's at, because we're not looking to replace your culture. We're not looking to replace your employees. We're looking to enhance what you have, not replace it. So then we build technology solutions around that. And so what I like to say is basically for the price of hiring a CTO for your company, you get the CTO plus the team they need to support them and the technology. And so we use some off-the-shelf solutions for some things, but then we combine that with a custom system that integrates with what they have So the worst thing that can happen, and you'll talk to business owners all the time, they have all these horror stories of, oh, well, this guy said he was an AI expert. Turns out he was an expert on real estate before that, an expert on Bitcoin before that. These people that do not know very much about AI, they oversell what it can do. Then these companies integrate it, and it causes all sorts of headaches. It can cost them clients, but it can also lead to one of the worst things, which is your team gets scared because they're convinced that AI is going to take their job. And so they see this poorly implemented AI rollout, and they're not, they're frustrated, day one, obviously, but then where's their head going to go? The next thing they're going to think about is, I better start applying for a different job somewhere else because these people are investing in AI to replace me, even though that's not the case. So you have to be careful about how you roll this stuff out. And so for us, AI is just one tool in the tool belt, and we can handle HR, system optimization, compliance, marketing, all of those things. We have people with experience in that, and we can all come together and pull AI into its place where it makes sense while looking at all these other things that matter too. So it's very different from your average, LinkedIn AI expert, that reaches out to you. We're able to integrate things in a way that is going to optimize and build on what you have and 10x the value of your team rather than destroying it. Yeah. So our biggest challenge, I kind of mentioned it before, is we're in a very crowded space where there's a lot of noise, and getting the signal to punch through the noise and actually reach business owners that share our values, that want to do things the right way. Reaching those people is a challenge because they're just inundated with this flood of, I'm an AI expert, or, hey, I'm an AI rep with so-and-so, and hey, you should hire us. It's not a good time to be a business owner. And it's not because the actual technology is coming after you. It's the people who sell the technology are coming after you. And it's this nightmare scenario for a lot of business owners. So we have to differentiate ourselves, right? And we have to figure out ways to build more authentic relationships. So I spend most of my days now on calls with business owners, explaining what we do, understanding what they do, and helping to figure out how we can help. And it's a very different approach from what they're used to on these calls, where they're just being sold a solution as is with minimal integration. So it's a really healthy, beneficial conversation, but it's very time consuming. So those are things we're working on.
What does your growth look like? Like, what is your vision for the next 3, 5 years?
So I think I mentioned I was dealing with a unique health challenge recently and almost passed away. So it was a scary time. But what that does is it reframes and it refocuses you, right? And so I came away from that moment, in those moments, I should say, in that chapter of life, with a real understanding of what I want to accomplish in the world, whether I'm here or not. And so, building that legacy. And so part of that is this podcast, reaching out and seeing, are there opportunities for me to give back, to share my experience where it's helpful, and, help add to people's chances of success as they, work to achieve the goals in their life. So giving back is really important to me, making sure my family, my sister, for example, someone I'm very close to, I want to make sure that she doesn't need to do anything she doesn't want to do in life, from a work standpoint. So I want to make sure she's set for life. And beyond that, building something really cool with people that I like and trust. And there's not a lot of things that I kind of wear on my sleeve, so to speak. But one thing I do is that most of the people at the MedTech company that I exited, they all want to work with me wherever I end up. So, that tells me that my approach to servant leadership works really well. It's not always easy, but I want to create an environment where people have skin in the game, where they're able to support themselves, pay their bills today, but also build something of value that they can pass on to future generations as well. So that's my focus. And we have a succession plan internally. And, everyone on our core team, I've known for 10 plus years. So, relationships are really important to me, and finding ways to help support companies that are struggling, take the anxiety and the fear and the uncertainty away, and help them make better decisions, not get taken advantage of right now. All of that's really important to me and my business partners. As we build this out, that's really what the focus of this season of life is.
I wish you all the best and a quick recovery.
Thank you.
One final question to you, James, and I ask this to all my guests. What is the one piece of advice that you got that changed your perspective professionally and personally?
When someone tells you who they are, believe them. So one of the people in my life who was more or less in a lot of ways kind of a reclusive billionaire, not somebody that had a big public presence, but I ran into him on a project. He He was probably the smartest person I've ever met. Someone who you could tell when you were talking to him, like if it was something he had already discussed previously, it was almost like he loaded the cassette in his head and it was just like playing like the Star Wars intro, while he was focusing on something else. So he was a fascinating person. He passed away rather abruptly a few years ago. But yeah, he had some great sayings. And one of them was, when people show you who they are, believe them. And if you approach life in that way, and I'd also sprinkle in some Gary Vee, his approach to giving without the transactional expectation, because if you do that, it allows people to show you who they are as well. How do they respond to being given help and given resources and given wisdom? Are they willing to work for it? And take and apply what you've told them or help them with? Or are they just going to sit there and go, okay, cool. What do you have next for me? It allows you to figure out who people are very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. Thank you so much, James, for coming to our podcast and joining our channel today. It was a wonderful conversation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.